Welcome to Mindful Moments. Nurse your mind on the go. This audio uses AI narration to present our original book analysis. Today we're diving deep into Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility. It's a story of love, family, and societal expectations in 19th century England. It features two sisters, Elinor and Marianne Dashwood. They really embody contrasting approaches to life and love.
Oh, absolutely. That dynamic between sense and sensibility. It's really key to understanding Austen's message. It's not just a romantic tale, it's also a sharp commentary on the social pressures and constraints of her time, particularly for women.
Exactly. And Austen sets the stage brilliantly. With the inheritance, or lack thereof. It throws the Dashwood women into a very precarious situation. They lose their father, and they're essentially left at the mercy of their half-brother John.
Yeah, the will itself. It's fascinating. Austen uses it to expose the stark reality of women's dependence on men. The bulk of the inheritance goes to John and to his young son. He's described as this mischievous child. He charmed his way into a larger inheritance than his aunts, and they devoted years to their father's care.
Wow. It's a pretty stark example of how women were often overlooked and undervalued, even within their own families.
Precisely. And John, despite some initial promises of support, he quickly falls under the influence of his wife Fanny, who's less than sympathetic to the plight of her husband's stepfamily.
Yeah, Fanny Dashwood, she's such a classic Austen character. Self-centered, obsessed with social status. She's quick to remind the Dashwood women that their comfort is not her responsibility.
Right. And this lack of support forces a major turning point. The Dashwood women have to leave their beloved Norland estate and move to a smaller, less fashionable cottage in Devonshire.
So this relocation becomes symbolic, right? It represents their fallen social standing and the challenges they now face.
Absolutely. It's a physical and emotional upheaval. It throws them into a new social circle with new opportunities and new vulnerabilities.
Okay.
And this is where the contrasting love stories of Elinor and Marianne really come into play.
Okay, so we see Elinor developing feelings for Edward Ferrars, Fanny's brother, who seems to share her reserved nature. Meanwhile, Marianne is completely captivated by the charming and dashing Willoughby, who appears to embody her romantic ideals.
Yeah, and Austen highlights their different approaches to love through several key scenes. For instance, Marianne is highly critical of Edward's spiritless reading of Cowper, who was a popular poet at the time, but she's instantly smitten with Willoughby because he shares her taste in literature and seems to understand her passionate soul.
That scene really emphasizes Marianne's belief that true love should be all-consuming and perfectly aligned, both emotionally and intellectually.
It sets her up for a heartbreaking disillusionment, which is central to her journey of self-discovery.
Willoughby's betrayal of Marianne is definitely a pivotal moment in the novel. He abandons her, choosing to marry a wealthy heiress instead.
That choice speaks volumes about the pressures on men in that society. While women were expected to marry for love and security, men often felt compelled to prioritize financial stability and social advancement.
Willoughby becomes a cautionary tale about the dangers of prioritizing appearances and social standing over genuine affection and personal integrity.
Exactly. And the contrast between Willoughby and Colonel Brandon is also significant. Brandon is an older, more reserved character. He initially seems quite dull compared to Willoughby's flamboyance.
But Brandon proves to be a true gentleman. He genuinely cares for Marianne, respects her feelings for Willoughby, and eventually becomes a source of strength and support for the Dashwood sisters.
He represents a quieter, more mature form of love, one that's based on respect, compassion, and understanding.
It makes you wonder if Austen is suggesting that true happiness isn't always found in grand romantic gestures, but in the steady presence of someone who truly sees and values you for who you are. So while Marianne's dealing with all of that, Elinor's quietly navigating her own complicated romantic situation. Edward Ferrars. Turns out he has a secret engagement, a youthful indiscretion that comes back to haunt him.
Yeah. The revelation of Edward's secret engagement to Lucy Steele. It adds another layer of complexity to the novel. Lucy's this seemingly unremarkable young woman, but she possesses a cunning ability to manipulate those around her.
It's fascinating how Austen uses Lucy to highlight the subtle ways in which societal expectations can be manipulated for personal gain. She understands the rules of the game, and she uses them to her advantage.
Exactly. And Elinor, bound by a promise to keep Lucy's secret, she finds herself in an incredibly difficult position. She's torn between her loyalty to Lucy, her concern for her family, and her own unspoken feelings for Edward.
It's a true test of her character. Throughout this ordeal, she maintains her composure and prioritizes the needs of others, even as she's wrestling with her own heartbreak.
This restraint is a hallmark of Elinor's character. She embodies the sense of the title, carefully considering her actions and their potential consequences. But Austen doesn't portray her as cold or unfeeling. We see glimpses of her inner turmoil, particularly in her private conversations with Marianne.
There's a quiet strength and resilience in Elinor that I find incredibly admirable. She doesn't give in to despair or self-pity, even when faced with difficult circumstances.
She represents a different kind of heroine, one whose strength lies in her self-control, her compassion, and her unwavering loyalty to those she loves.
And Austen masterfully weaves these individual stories into a broader social commentary. The emphasis on marrying well for financial security. It's constantly present, driving many of the characters' choices.
Absolutely. Willoughby's decision to marry for money rather than love, that's a prime example. But we also see it in the pressure Edward faces from his family, to choose a bride who will enhance their social standing.
Even Colonel Brandon's past is touched by this societal pressure. He was denied the opportunity to marry the woman he loved because she was deemed unsuitable by his family.
It highlights how these social constraints affected both men and women, though in different ways.
And Austen doesn't shy away from using humor to expose the hypocrisy and absurdity of these conventions. Mrs. Jennings, with her constant matchmaking attempts and gossipy nature, she provides a lot of comic relief.
Mrs. Jennings is a brilliant character. She represents the double-edged sword of social circles. She can be warm and supportive, but also incredibly intrusive and superficial.
She embodies those societal pressures to conform, constantly reminding the Dashwood sisters of the importance of securing a good marriage.
And then we have the Palmers. They offer a more cynical view of marriage. Mr. Palmer is constantly grumpy, while Mrs. Palmer seems oblivious to his bad moods, finding amusement in everything.
They represent a different kind of marriage, one devoid of romantic ideals, but perhaps more realistic in its portrayal of the challenges and compromises of long-term relationships.
Their presence serves as a counterpoint to the more idealistic views of love held by Marianne and Elinor, forcing the reader to consider the complexities of marriage in all its forms.
And ultimately, it's Elinor's steadfastness and resilience that lead to a satisfying, if somewhat unexpected, resolution. While Marianne learns a valuable lesson about the importance of balancing sense and sensibility, Elinor's journey reveals the quiet power of inner strength, compassion, and unwavering loyalty.
It's a testament to the idea that true happiness may not always come in the form we expect, but rather in the quiet moments of connection, the enduring bonds of family and friends, and the steady presence of someone who truly sees and appreciates you for who you are.
You know, it's interesting. Austen doesn't present a simple dichotomy between sense and sensibility.
Right.
Both Elinor and Marianne have to learn and grow. They find a balance between their head and their heart.
Exactly. It's not about choosing one over the other, but recognizing the value of both. Marianne's passionate nature, it leads her to experience joy and heartbreak more intensely.
Right.
While Elinor's reasoned approach allows her to navigate difficult situations with grace and composure.
And ultimately, both sisters find happiness, albeit in different ways. Marianne lets go of her idealized view of love and learns to appreciate the quiet devotion of Colonel Brandon.
Yeah.
And Elinor, after much heartache and uncertainty, she finally finds love with Edward, who breaks free from societal expectations to follow his heart.
Their journeys highlight the complexities of love, marriage, and social pressures in Austen's time. But the themes resonate even today.
I think so.
We still grapple with the tension between following our passions and making sensible choices between societal expectations and personal fulfillment.
Absolutely. Sense and sensibility. It's a timeless story because it speaks to those universal human experiences. It reminds us that life rarely unfolds according to our plans.
Right.
But that there's beauty and meaning to be found in the unexpected turns, the quiet moments of connection, and the enduring bonds of love and family.
Austen's genius lies in her ability to weave such profound insights into a story. That's both entertaining and thought-provoking. Her characters, even the less likable ones, feel so real and relatable. You find yourself laughing one moment and deeply moved the next, captivated by the intricate web of relationships and the enduring power of love in all its forms.
We've only scratched the surface of this rich and rewarding novel. To fully immerse yourself in the world of the Dashwood sisters and discover the nuances of Austen's masterful storytelling, we encourage you to read Sense and Sensibility.
You'll find it to be a journey of self-discovery, not just for the characters, but for the reader as well.
A purchase link is in the show notes, and be sure to subscribe to Mindful Moments for more bite-sized book insights. Until next time.